This is an NBC News special report. Here's Tom Yamas.
And good afternoon tonight, where it is here in Tel Aviv. We are coming on the air with breaking news. President Trump is about to depart for the Middle East. There at Joint Base Andrews, about to enter Air Force One. As he exits the beast, we're seeing these pictures live in real time right now. This is happening as we speak. Of course, President Trump coming here to Tel Aviv, coming to Israel to address the Israeli parliament, the Knesset. He will also come here as potentially hostages are being released, the 20 living hostages that Hamas has still kept inside of Gaza. That expected to happen tomorrow early in the morning. But again, this is a very fluid situation. We're going to wait a moment here to see if the president talks to the press. Let's listen in.
This is going to be a very special time. And I guess if you read your own papers and your own networks, everybody's very excited about this moment in time. So I'll see you on the plane. I think you're traveling with us. But this is a very special event. They had 500,000 people yesterday and today in Israel, and also the Muslim and Arab countries are all cheering. Everybody's cheering at one time. That's never happened before. Usually if you have one cheering, the other isn't. The other is the opposite. This is the first time everybody is amazed and they're thrilled, and it's an honor to be involved, and we're going to have an amazing time, and it's going to be something that's never happened before. So I'll see you on the plane, and we're going to have a good time. Okay, Peter? Nice to see you. Thank you, everybody. See you in a little while.
Thank you, sir. Is the war in Gaza over?
Just listening to President Trump there, addressing reporters, but not really saying anything too important at this point, at least. His trip delayed by an hour, you can see, because of the foul weather there on the East Coast, roughly a 10-hour flight from the East Coast here to Israel. He will be greeted here, and he will be welcomed as a hero right now. Across Israel, in my conversations, people have thanked President Trump. You listen to any Israeli leader, they thank President Trump for getting this peace deal, at least the first phase of this peace deal, done. And when those hostages are released, I'm sure those thank yous will be plentiful throughout the country. Richard Engel joins us now. And Richard, to speak to this point, as I was coming in, I was sort of taken back. There are billboards in Tel Aviv thanking President Trump.
There are lots of them. There are American flags lining many of the highways. There are billboards in Tel Aviv, not only Tel Aviv, thanking him specifically. Last night here in Tel Aviv, when Jared Kushner and the president's son-in-law, Steve Witkoff, and Jared Kushner were giving a speech in Hostage Square, they were celebrated. President Trump was celebrated. But when he mentioned Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, they were boos. So he is much more popular here than their own prime minister.
This is an incredible moment here in Israel. We know that close to 500,000 people showed up in Hostage Square yesterday to hear those speeches, to rally around the families. We expect those crowds to grow. And to give people perspective, 500,000 people here in Israel is like millions and millions of people in the U.S. assembling at a plaza to sort of wait for this moment. It has been more than 700 days, 2 years that these families have waited, and really all of Israel has waited.
And well, you have to do credit where credit is due. I've spoken to people here in Israel who aren't naturally Trump supporters. In fact, I spoke to someone today who was directly involved in this negotiating process, who says he doesn't like Trump. It's not his style. But he says without President Trump's direct intervention, this wouldn't have happened, because he forced both Hamas and Prime Minister Netanyahu to arrive at this point. He put the gun on the table, he made threats, and they brokered a deal. It's still fragile. A lot needs to happen between now. I don't think we have lasting peace in the Middle East. But here, absolutely, from critics and supporters alike, people are congratulating Trump for getting here.
There's little of what we know tomorrow, this hostage. I guess the hostage is coming back. We know a little bit about what's going to happen. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. And things could always change, right? It is the Middle East. It is still a war, if you will. Things are very fluid. We understand that the 20 living hostages, the remaining living hostages in Gaza, will be released tomorrow. But there is now, late tonight here in Tel Aviv, some back and forth between Hamas. We're hearing reports that they're talking to Al Jazeera and demanding, making sure that the names they have of the Palestinian prisoners that are here in Israel, that those names all matched up and the right prisoners are released, more than 250 of them, correct?
So let me walk through people quickly through what's supposed to happen tomorrow. And as you say, you're predicting the future. You never know what's going to happen, but there are a lot of discussions to try and nail down the sequence of events. So tomorrow, the 20 living hostages are supposed to come out. They are supposed to be handed over to the Red Cross. Red Cross collects them in vehicles, brings them to Israel, where they're reunited with their families, given medical care. They are not supposed to do any of the propaganda celebrations, no putting them on stages, no medals.
Like Hamas had done before.
Like Hamas had done before. They gave them goodie bags in the past, like they were supposed to have had a good time during captivity. None of that. They hand them over, no fanfare. After that, Israel is supposed to hand over about 2,000 prisoners, 1,700 of them taken during the war in Gaza, and about 250 who are held in Israeli jails, sentenced to long-term sentences. But right now, just as we're coming on, Hamas is saying, or Hamas officials speaking to Al Jazeera is saying, that there are discrepancies, that the occupation, which is what Hamas always call Israel, is not serious about the commitment. They're arguing over names, and they say, we urge the people who brought us to this peace agreement, Arab states, potentially President Trump, to put pressure on Israel so that they can come to some sort of agreement on these names.
These may seem like minor details, but they're incredibly important to Hamas. And Hamas is going to want to make sure all the names on those lists are the people that are released to get those 20 hostages. And Israel right now, the entire country right now, is expecting for those 20 living hostages to be released out of Gaza.
So Hamas is not saying at this stage that they're not going to do it. No threat that they're not going to go through and hand over the 20 living hostages. In fact, Hamas officials earlier today have said they're ready. They've collected them all, they've accounted for them, and they're planning to make this handover tomorrow. What they are arguing over are the prisoners who are supposed to be released in exchange. And then there is this issue of the bodies. As you know, in addition to the 20 living hostages, there are 28 remains of hostages who died or were killed.
Who had been killed either in the terror attack or who died in captivity.
Who died in captivity or killed or were in a location that was hit by a strike, or they died from health reasons. We won't really know until there's some sort of forensics done. Well, just tonight, the Israeli military said that there will be 72 hours, that Hamas has 72 hours to find all of those remains and hand them over, with the understanding, and both the Hamas officials and Israeli officials do understand, that some of these remains are buried under rubble. And if you look at Gaza, it's easy to understand.
And the Israelis have already threatened that if some of those 28 remains are not found, they're going to have a special forces unit go and locate those remains, which could add, and obviously will add, tension to what's happening. Because at this point, it is still unclear who is going to take over Gaza, who's going to run Gaza. And as we were talking earlier, those are the thornier parts of this peace plan. Phase 2, phase 3, what happens after the 20 living hostages come out?
So this there was a threat also added to this timeline. So there had always been this expectation that recovering the bodies was going to take some time. Tonight, the Israeli military said 72 hours. That's what you have to hand over these bodies. Find them and hand them over. And if you don't, there will be this there'll be this special forensics unit that will go and look for them. That could be very provocative if you suddenly have Israeli special forces
back all over Gaza,
all over Gaza, hunting for remains. It goes with the concept, a well-established concept all over the world, of a concept that the Israelis take very seriously, but that all armies take very seriously, about leaving no man behind.
Yeah. That being said, the Egyptians, the Turks, the Qataris, the Americans, they're all here, and they're going to be in Egypt, and they're going to be in the region, trying to make sure this peace plan lasts. I do want to get to our chief White House correspondent, Peter Alexander, who joins our team tonight from Jerusalem. Peter, walk our viewers tonight through the president's schedule, because it's going to be very robust as he arrives here in Israel and then heads over to Egypt.
Yeah, Tom, you're right. Notably, it's robust, but it's also very brief. The president, at least if the schedule holds, is supposed to be on the ground here in the Middle East, not just in Israel, but in Egypt, combined for less than 8 hours, about 7.5 hours as planned. His first stop will be arriving not far from where you are at Ben Gurion Airport there in Tel Aviv. The president will then head here to Jerusalem. He's expected to meet, according to the White House's schedule, and officials there we've been speaking to, with the families of hostages before he speaks to the Knesset here. And when he arrives in Jerusalem, he will be greeted, much like the signs and the placards you're seeing there, with some remarkable American celebrations. The patriotism toward the United States in this country, I think, is particularly compelling. We are here at the Old City, but earlier we were in a different area here where they have a giant Israeli and American flag being projected onto the walls of the Old City. And as I was speaking to some of the Israelis who were out tonight, one stopped me and said, "Are you American?" And I said I was. And they said, "Before you ask me any questions, please let me tell you how grateful we are to you. We feel like, as Israelis, we are a part of America. We are an extension of your country." They are incredibly grateful for the efforts of this administration to help arrive upon this day and sort of to punctuate the moments that we're seeing here ahead of that hostage release, the Knesset speech to take place in this country. Tomorrow also intersects with the beginning of a holy day, a holiday of Sukkot here, which is a fall festival. So there are already joyful celebrations in a country that feels very different than it has over the course of these last 2 years. When the president departs Jerusalem, he'll return to Tel Aviv, where he will fly directly about 350 miles as the crew flies to Sharm el-Sheikh, the Red Sea resort in Egypt, where he will be joined by world leaders there for what's being described as a Middle East peace ceremony, a signing ceremony of sorts. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear the president deliver remarks there as well. Among those dignitaries expected to be in attendance, the Prime Minister Keir Starmer of the United Kingdom, the French President Emmanuel Macron, and likely representatives from some of the other countries like Saudi Arabia, UAE, Egypt, and Jordan, which is notable because one of the key moments that led us to this point and the conversations we've been having privately with those involved in this process was a meeting that took place only a matter of weeks ago at the United Nations General Assembly in New York, where the president met with some of the top leaders of these Arab countries and where that 20-point plan that now appears to be the plan off of which they are working was set in place. Of course, there are a lot of questions about some points in that plan after the release of these hostages. The first 20, as you and Richard have been reporting, to be released by noon tomorrow. The 28, the remains of the 28 others to be released over the course of the next 72 hours. The real questions, though, that remain in terms of the plan are what happens thereafter in terms of the disarmament of Hamas, the interim political structure, the security force that will be made up of an international group, what that will look like with representatives, soldiers, as it were, from different nations around the world. So there's still a lot to be sorted out, but at least on the eve of the hostage release and the return of some of those prisoners from, some of them, Ramallah, just a short distance away from where we are in the West Bank, this is really a day that at least both sides are celebrating.
All right, Peter Alexander. Peter, we thank you as we watch Air Force One ready to depart from Joint Base Andrews. Richard, we should also mention that there's so many Palestinians, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, that are returning to Gaza City, returning to the north of Gaza to come back to, they're not even sure what they're coming back to destruction in many regards.
So Israeli troops have not pulled out of Gaza. They have pulled back from several main population centers. So over the course of these last 2 years, Palestinians have been displaced from one city to the next, often living in open areas between towns and cities, staying on the beach, staying in tents. And now that Israelis have pulled back from the main population centers, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians are going back to where they lived before, and many of them are finding ruins. And Palestinians we've been speaking to today, who initially were happy, joyful, celebrating that the war was over, now that's more of a sense of relief and anger is starting to settle in.
And Richard, you're going to have a report for us tonight on Nightly News as we watch Air Force One about to lift off. The aid is now flowing. There's more aid coming in now, correct?
A little bit. I would say it's trickling in. Some, just dozens of trucks got in today. Hundreds of trucks are parked around Gaza, near Gaza. They're full, they're ready.
Fuel, food, everything.
Everything.
When would those go in?
I was speaking with aid groups just today. They don't really have a lot of clarity. It depends on how it goes tomorrow. Okay. If tomorrow goes smoothly, then I think the flow of aid will go much more smoothly. All of the aid is inspected by Israel, so it is a process. It comes in, it's screened, then distributed.
Air Force One now in the air, roughly a 10-hour flight here to Israel. We will be back on the air for Nightly News tonight, and of course, we will bring you when the president arrives here again tomorrow. That's going to conclude this NBC News special report. We're going to have much more ahead on NBC News Now, online at NBCnews.com, and again, a full wrap-up tonight when I see you on Nightly News. I'm Tom Yamas reporting tonight from Tel Aviv. We thank you so much for watching.